Welcome to the Breakthrough the Bullshit podcast. I am your host, Alice Round. I am pumped to have you here. We are going to really strip back all of the bullshit surrounding nutrition, training, fad diets, everything in the industry so that we can give you education to get the best possible results. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and let's go through all this bullshit. Welcome to another episode of Breakthrough the Bullshit. I know it's been a little bit MIA of late, but I'm going to be back on, like I said, twice a week. I am promising you that for the next couple of months and the foreseeable future, maybe even more if I have a very productive week. But I've got a pretty special guest with me today, special in both senses of the word. He is a good friend of mine now, but I actually met him through the fitness industry. We'll probably get into how we actually met because I don't even remember off the top of my head. But he's basically an entrepreneur, self-made businessman, mogul, done a few different things over the years. Why am I having him on to talk on a Breakthrough the Bullshit podcast when this is meant to be about fitness and nutrition? Well, it is because we're breaking through the bullshit, and that means everything in the industry. That doesn't just mean nutrition and training. That means business. That means everything. And he also has competed before as well, and men's physique in ICN, I believe, which was IMBA back then. So he's done both. He's been a competitor as well as a business owner in the fitness industry, which is why we've got him on today. Really long intro, but I could talk about him all day. So I'm just going to let him in, say hello to you all. I have Mr. Joshua Porter from Jporter Clothing. Hello.
Hello, Alice. Thanks for having me.
I can take a breath now.
That was a long intro.
I thought it was kind of longer. I didn't even mention Renee in there, the whole dream hunter side of things. But welcome. This is about you today. We've already had her on the podcast, so this is your time.
Cool. No, I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Awesome. And you guys, well, more so Renee's been doing her own podcast. Are you doing bits and pieces on that as well with her?
No, not yet. I'll be looking to get involved with that fairly soon, I suppose. But no, I haven't done anything yet. This is my first time on a podcast.
Oh, yay. First time you're a podcast virgin. I'm taking your virginity.
I know. It was so sexy.
Well, okay, so I have got a mountain of questions to get through today. But to start off with, I guess I just want to hear from you. If people don't know who you are, because I'm sure there's a few people out there that don't. If they don't, they need to go on Snapchat because Josh is hilarious. But if people don't know who you are, I just want you to give me like a brief summary, who you are, why you're in the fitness industry, what it means to you. Go.
Okay, thanks. So I'm Josh Porter. I own a clothing brand called Jporter Clothing. We started that 4 years ago. It's a fitness lifestyle brand. We operate from Perth. We're very organic, homegrown, sort of small business mentality. And we've just grown. Like we sell threads all over the world now. Why I'm in the fitness industry, I suppose it's a place where, motivation is the key driver to success. And what we do with the brand, I sort of tell people, we're not even a fitness brand. We're a motivation brand. Clothing is just a vehicle to take that message out to the world. So I love this industry. I love fitness myself. So the brand for me was a chance to connect with other people, other like-minded people, and hopefully get some inspo going.
Yeah, awesome. How do you think that since you started the company, how has it changed your life in terms of, I guess, where you were, would you say 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
4 years, yeah.
4 years ago. Where were you then? Where are you now?
Okay, so I used to work a corporate job. I worked my way up in a company to a national position. I was, I had a lot of people. I had 252 people reporting to me for in national products. And it was awesome. Like I loved that job, but I think at the time I felt success to me was about how much I earned. It was about how much responsibility I had in the company. And to do that, when you're working in that sort of corporate lifestyle, there's an unhealthy aspect that comes with it. So I used to drink a lot. I used to party really hard. I used to entertain a lot of clients. I think I was always the same person. I always loved fun and I always loved working really hard. But where I am now, I earn now a lot, I guess probably less than what I earned then, but I'm so much more rewarded with what I do now. My lifestyle's better. My health and fitness is way better, seeing as I actually do it now. And the feeling of satisfaction I get when I wake up every day and know that I'm going to kill it is I just can't compare it to what I used to be.
And when you say your lifestyle's changed now, in what sense do you mean there? Do you mean like your general day-to-day is very different? Like, can you kind of compare the two?
Sure, yeah. Like I always worked big hours. I mean, I came from a background where I mean, obviously I finished high school. I went to TAFE to do something totally different, but I never did a university degree. So when I got into a company, I just had to be an absolute grinder. Like I had to work my absolute ass off to compete with other people at the same level who had degrees. So to rise above that, like I was working I was used to working 16 to 18 hour days for a very long time. But what I used to do was I got to a point, I suppose, after 6.5 years in this company of thinking, what am I doing? Like I'm working so hard every single day. Like my health is shit. I'm working so hard and it's not even for my dream. And I don't really even believe in what we do. So my lifestyle is different now in the sense that I mean, obviously I own my own business. So I run my own show. I make my own hours. I still work very hard, even harder than I used to. But I have other things in there that, you know, like my fitness and my health and my training, which give me a lot of satisfaction and reward and make me feel like I'm, you know, on top of my shit.
You probably make that more of a priority now in your day-to-day activity. Obviously, maybe not every day, but you know, you make it a point to be active. Whereas before in that job, it was like partying and, you know, that was the priority, entertaining clients rather than your own happiness, like you said. So I guess I want to know, because I don't think I even 100% know, but why clothing? Like, why was that the market that you were like, the avenue that you went down? Did you see an opening, or was it like that was something that you thought was crap in the fitness industry and you needed better apparel out there? What was it?
So I always had an interest in fashion. Like I just loved fashion. I always did. I like street fashion. When I first started training, and now bear in mind, I'm 30 now. I started training when I was 26. So I had, you know, I was probably 70 kilo, 25-year-old, 26-year-old man who just had no idea. Like I was skinny, fat. I always had abs, weirdly. I don't know why. I think it's just my genetics. I always had abs, but I just had the most unhealthy body. And yeah, anyway, so I started training. I started feeling really good. And we'd moved back from Sydney because we used to live there for work. We'd moved back to Perth. And I remember I went back to Sydney to visit some mates, and I went into a Rebel Sports to buy some singlets because we were going to train. And I was like, look, I've got to look good. And I remember just putting on all these Everlast singlets and these Nike singlets and these, you know, these big brands. And I thought to myself, I don't like any of this stuff. And at the time, I didn't like it because I didn't connect to this big corporate sort of brand. I wanted something. I was always into fashion, so I wanted something that made me feel motivated. And I remember looking at it and thinking, I was chatting to my mate, and I said, mate, I'd love to make some of my own, you know, singlets, just something that I felt like looked good, fitted good. So we looked into it, and yeah, originally I just wanted to make singlets for myself. I was like, I'm going to make some cool singlets that I can wear, and then a few mates. You know, it's the same old story. You know, a few mates go, look, dude, I would wear that. That looks really cool. I was like, okay. And I started thinking more, and I thought, you know, I'm going to make a brand. I'm going to make a brand for guys only because there's a huge market out there for women. You know, Lorna Jane, Lululemon, they're killing it. I'm going to make a brand just for guys.
Yeah.
And then about 3 days in, I realized that is bullshit. You need girls.
Girls spend more money.
Well, yeah, and so we when we first launched, we launched it for girls and guys, and but we never sort of targeted it towards, you know, that real girly sort of look. It's more like the boyfriend sort of look.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to answer your question, I always loved fashion. When I got into fitness, I felt like I'd found my calling, and I always loved writing. So for me, I was always a writer. I was in a band. I was a songwriter. So I thought, hell, man, I'm going to take some of these cool kind of motivating words that I like to write and apply that to a clothing brand and use that as the art, use that as the way to get it out into the world so people feel inspired.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's interesting that you kind of, I think that with a lot of entrepreneurs, you fall into jobs because it was something that you just love yourself. And that's what makes it easier to wake up every day, because you know that you're there for that reason. Like you said, you were buying singlets for you to wear. It was like me with macro snacks. I was making muesli for myself. And I was like, then friends are like, can I have some, blah, blah, blah. It's that same thing. So it's really cool. And I mean, I'm sure for you, does that make you feel, even when you have the hardest days, and we know we all have them as entrepreneurs, you have horribly hard days where it's that grind, it's that lack of sleep. And I know you more than anyone do the grind when you have a launch or you have something that's going on, pre-launch, post-launch, intra-launch, all of that. There's always like this in terms of your days. But how do you get through those days when you're having those days like, yeah, where you've just like, I know I have to smash out the next 4 or 5 days and then I can kind of pull back a bit? Or how do you deal with that? Because I'm sure now that the company's getting busier the last few years, and now that you've got the pressure on you of quitting all your other jobs and all the expectation being on Jporter, how do you kind of manage that? Your mindset more than anything.
with my mindset, I mean, look, I'm a simple guy in the sense that I just have a mantra. I just repeat to myself. So if I'm working really hard, and like you said, during a launch, in the lead up to a launch, we are preparing thousands of garments. In the launch, we're managing the actual sale. After the launch, we're managing the dispatch of of hundreds and hundreds of handwritten, hand wrapped orders. So it's a big deal. But there's times when it's like 2 a.m. and I'm here. I'm at the studio. I'm grinding away, and I'm tired. I'm like exhausted, and I felt myself just think, fuck, maybe I should just give it a break and do it tomorrow. But I've got this little thing I say to myself now. I think, Josh, somebody out there is working harder on their dreams than you right now. Yeah. And when I think that, it just every single time, I don't know what it is, but it just gets this reaction from me. I think, fuck, like, sorry, I'm probably swearing too much, but I think, no.
All right, you can swear. It's explicit, this podcast.
Yeah, cool. Well, I think to myself, fuck that. Like, I'm not, like, I can work harder than anybody. I may not be more book smart than a lot of people. I may not have the education, but I know how to work hard. And I think to myself, nah, I can work harder than anyone. That's what it's going to take, and I'm not going to allow that to happen. So it just drives me. And you did mention, like, after a launch, or after we've built up to the launch, we've built the hype, we've launched, we've come out of it. 2 weeks later or so, I'll usually take 2 or 3 days just to chill. Yeah. Because I just need it. Otherwise, I mean, there is a limit. There's a human limit where you just.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes as well, if I'm feeling like I've worked, 4 nights in a row till like 2 a.m, and I'm feeling pretty shitty, I will take like 3 hours off in the morning, and I'll just like go for a walk or something like that, and it actually does help.
Yeah. Just have a sleep in, get some food in you, go out for brekkie, all those things. Get out of being there for that long, Yeah,
exactly.
With any industry, you don't want to be like start to hate your workplace. Like, that's a big part of it. You want to keep that passion there.
Agreed, and it is something I've struggled with. I mean, I've said to a lot of mates who've started their own businesses who maybe have left their jobs to do something they love. I've just said, just be prepared that when it's like you've got your little small business and you've got your full-time job. Your full-time job, and now this analogy probably might offend some people, but I'm going to say it anyway. Your full-time job's like, it's like this marriage that you've been in and you're not happy in, and it's stale. And your small business or your passion is like your little love affair on the side, and you want it so bad that when you finally make that switch and that becomes your wife, and that becomes your full-time thing, all these other pressures and responsibilities that you weren't expecting come with it. 100%. It becomes your income. This better than anyone. It becomes your income. It becomes your daily expectation, your daily pressure, and things should be prepared.
Yeah, and if you don't go about that the right way, you may end up then wanting to have a break from that and then go back to that comfort zone. And I think that your full-time job is your comfort zone, and a lot of people don't get that, and I'd 100% agree with that. I used to think that working for myself would be easier. I used to always think that until I went, all in and went, okay, yeah, this is going to be my career. Then I went, I don't like to say it's harder because everyone has different jobs. And I know that some jobs working for companies, it's different. You have a lot of pressure on you. But it's different in the sense that the expectation isn't on you. You're not the one that if shit goes down, it's not all on you. If you don't feel like rocking up to work for 2 weeks, the company will still keep moving. If we don't rock up to work for 2 weeks, shit's going to go down. You know what I mean? So there is pressure, but like you, I think you're similar to me in that we thrive on that pressure. That I think that when I'm quiet, I'm actually less productive than when I'm super busy. And I don't know if you're the same. Like, do you find that you that grind kind of keeps you grinding?
100%. Like when there's a lot on and I'm busy and I'm thriving on it, like I sometimes look back and think, shit, I just got so much done. Like on your busiest days, you go, wow, I just got so much done. I got like 3 people's jobs done in one day.
You're proud of yourself. You're like, fuck yeah. Pat on the back.
I love it.
Yeah.
In fact, that's why people often say to me, I'm sure they say it to you, like, how do you work so many hours? Like, you're always cranking. Like, how do you do it? And you just think like, I just love it. Like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah, I think it's a difference between liking your job and also working on something that's for you. When it's your baby, you're happy to put the hours in. And I think that it's probably a similar conversation we're going to have with staff, but I've recently employed staff the last couple of years, and especially the last few months, another 2 on board, and you've got employees as well. And it's that, and it'll be interesting to get your take on this, but I've now learned that my employees are never going to care about my business as much as me, and I need to be okay with that. and that I need to almost set the bar a little bit lower for them. And if they jump up here, that's awesome. If they choose to just do the bare minimum, then that's also okay, because it's not their baby. And that can be hard for entrepreneurs. Like, how have you found that going through kind of now that the company's grown and you've got employees and stuff, even though they're as amazing as what they are, but is it different having someone else on your baby?
Yes, it is. I mean, you're right. You do want those people, because they become part of your family. They become part of your little team, and you want them to just love it as much as you do. But you're dead right. You know, when you say that they can never love it as much as you do, because it's not theirs. It doesn't come from their heart. You know, they might be passionate about it, they might love it, but at the end of the day, like, you can't have that expectation, I suppose, on them to love it as much as you do. But
yeah,
you know, I just try, like, as best as I can with my team and the people that are, you know, we're bringing on another person soon as well, is to just show them how much I love it, as every single day, how much I love it, and hopefully that will rub off on them, and they'll enjoy that as well.
Yeah, 100%. That's my kind of motto as well. It's like, because even they've said to me, "Oh, you work so much," you know, and I'm like, I don't expect you to work as much as I work, but I also want you to rise up and see that and be motivated by it, you know, at the same time. So, and looking after your staff's a big thing. I've learned that as well. You know, you got to look after them, make sure they're happy, so that you're happy at the end of the day. The harder they work, the happier they are. It all goes in that circle. It's like you, when you're in your corporate job and you're working these ridiculous hours, you weren't happy. But maybe if your employee had to come to you that point and been like, "We're working you into the ground, like, what can we do to make you happier?" You may have stayed, you know what I mean? You may not work where you are now. So, or you might have been there another 5 years, you know? So
I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? It's good that you go through bad jobs, because it makes you realize. I went through, my big thing, I didn't really ever work corporate like you, but I actually worked for a year full-time in a school, because I thought I wanted to be a phys ed teacher when I was going through my sports science degree. And I did it before I went to uni, and I fucking hated it. I was like, hated being in the school. I hated the rigidness of the structure for the education system, which probably sounds horrible. Any teachers out there, although I've got a few clients who are teachers who agree with me that it's a little bit backwards. And I just used to get annoyed that I couldn't have that flexibility. Kids were unappreciative, like all of that sort of stuff. And I was like, this isn't for me. But it's funny how you need to go through that to realize what you don't want in life. Like, if you don't go through bad stuff, you're not going to get anywhere. And yeah, how do you feel like some of your experiences have, I guess, shaped you from where you are today? Like, I'm sure you've been through some stuff.
Yeah, look, one particular thing comes to mind. The company that I mentioned before that I worked for nearly 7 years, I bled for that company. Like, I moved around Australia with them. I did everything I could. And a new CEO, when we became a public listed company, a new CEO came on board, and he was, you know, CEOs are pretty hard-nosed guys generally, and girls.
Yeah.
And but he just sort of destroyed everything I'd worked on. Like, I built this huge product portfolio, and he just turned around and goes, "I'm going to turn that into 7 people's job now. You're going to answer to this person," some guy who used to run a baked bean company.
Yeah.
And it was just so fucked. Like, and he just didn't listen to it. Like, and I wasn't objecting to the change. I just wanted him to sort of to have a bit of appreciation for all the years of work I'd put in, and he just came in and just tried to turn it upside down. Anyway, as I was working on a project that had a 3-month deadline, I had to get it done, and I was, you know, that was just the beginning. And I said to him, "Look, I'm going to resign, but I'm giving you guys 3 months notice because I want to finish the project and do the right thing." I was trying to do the right thing, and he sort of, like, he got my resignation, and he didn't say anything. Like, he had on his email, and other people had spoken to me in the company and said, you know, yeah, he's seen it, he's fine. And then, so I was like, okay, cool. So I didn't start looking for a job yet because I had 3 months and I needed to work on this project. And then at the end of the month, so one day before the end of 4 weeks, I just get an email from him saying, "Hi, Josh, your last day of work is tomorrow as per your contract. You actually don't need to give 3 months notice. So I just thought I'd let you know to pack up your shit and go." And it was like a knife in my heart. I was like, I loved this. I had, you know, like I said, I had 252 people who, you know, reported to me for a certain project. And I was like, how could you do this? And he said to me on the phone, he goes, "What I hope you learn from this is that I hope you learn a very valuable lesson from this. You know, that things aren't always as they seem. You know, you can't just make impulsive decisions." He sort of had this big spiel. And I remember I've gone away now thinking, Wayne, the only thing I ever learned from you is the type of leader that I do not want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, my experience.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so interesting, like the fact that you put 7 years into that company, someone new comes in and just completely disrespects all that hard work. And But then again, like you said, it makes you realize, well, I don't want to be that person. If I've got some employee that's been working their ass off for me, maybe even if they're not perfect, no one is, but at least respect where they are now and how we can nurture them to grow with the company or part ways in an amicable way, you know, not in that negative sense. So yeah, that's crazy. Like, but again, like you said, it just makes you realize, it just shapes you for who you are, like what you don't want to be about at the end of the day. I think sometimes we don't focus so much on who we want to be, but what we don't want to be, and moving away from that. And then you end up being something that you even had no idea you could be, you know, at the end of the day. You probably didn't open this clothing company thinking it would be, I'm sure, at least in the first few months, of where it would be now. Like, where did you think it would go? Did you think you'd still have to kind of work another job and it would never be like a full-time thing, or did you have really big dreams with it?
When I first started, I suppose the first year there was a lot of sampling, a lot of exploration, trying to learn what the business was. But I got to be honest, I did always have a dream. Like, I thought, I'm going to grow this. I'm going to take this around the world. I want this to be something really amazing that connects people. So I didn't sort of start, you know, and then get 2 years in and think, oh, this can be something. Like, I always had that vision from the beginning, but I suppose I didn't put any expectation. Like these days, I put a lot more expectation on what I want it to be. I'm actually sitting there going, all right, no, this is what it is going to be. Whereas at the time, I suppose I just hoped it would be something. Whereas these days, I know it can be something. So yeah, it's definitely like, I mean, where we are now, like I was looking at what we've moved product-wise the other day, and it was blowing my mind. I was like, I mean, you know, we're a tiny brand compared to big international brands, but I thought, man, we have moved a lot of threads in the last 3 years, like we have in this.
Making an impact.
So I suppose, yeah, I wasn't prepared for what it can be now and the growth that's all of a sudden starting to happen as we speak. But I did always have a dream, put it that way, from the beginning.
And I think your dream now has become more of a, like, you have dreams and then you have realistic goals, you know what I mean? And there's a slight difference in those. Your dream is more of now a plan, where it's like, okay, I know this can happen, and this is kind of the rough timeline of when it's going to happen, but I know it will happen. Whereas before, it might have been like, that'd be lovely, I'd love to have that, don't know when, sometime. But now that you've got that pressure as well of Renee leaving her job to be full-time, and then obviously now I set up Dream Hunter, but full-time Jporter for a little while there, and then obviously you as well, it's 2 people's lives that you're now setting up, and then also employees. So like for you, it's like, this has to work. Like there's no question that. Like, and I think that hiring people and having that pressure kind of helps sometimes. I don't know if that's the same for you, but it probably has motivated you more so with that.
Yeah, because it keeps you accountable, and you're actually sitting there looking at the figures, thinking it has to work. Like there is no plan B. Like I can't just get rid of these people. Like this is part of my team now. Like it has to work.
Yeah.
I've had friends who work in, you know, corporate jobs who earlier on were saying to me, "What is your plan B? Like you've got to have some sort of backup." And I'm like, man, if you've got a plan B, then you're not going to make it.
Plan A is shit.
If you don't have if you've got a backup plan, then you're automatically telling yourself, all right, this may not work. And if you're telling yourself this may not work, then it probably won't.
Exactly. You don't have enough self-belief. And something that my mentor says to me a lot is he's like, you either sink or swim, and you burn all your boats. You got to burn the boat, so you got to swim. You got no option. And I really love that saying, because it's like, if you've got excuses or fears in the back of your mind, you haven't burnt your boats. You haven't let go of that ship, and you're just probably going to drown either way. But if you go all in and you swim, then you can succeed. So I always we'll have to steal that little quote off Lynn. But yeah, it's a good one.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Burn them all, and you got no options. It's like red pill or blue pill. He always says that one to me as well. You got 2 options. It's either one or the other. There's no like pink pill, like it's one or the other. But I have got some more questions for you. So we have gone into like, I guess, why you did create the brand. So we've done that. And I guess the one massive question I want to ask you more specifically about the brand is, I guess, what is the thing that you're most proud of, like achieving over the last 4 years?
The thing I'm most proud of achieving, that's actually really easy for me to answer, is our community of customers. I call it our wolf pack. Yeah. And the fact that we've just built this huge amount of friends through the brand, and all these cool people who connect with us. And I know that if I'm feeling something or if I need something, I go out to that network, and I've just got this just massive pumping, amazing network of cool, motivated people, yourself included. And I just think, man, that is such a cool thing. Like that is worth more than anything. Like having that network of cool people. Like, man, I love my wolf pack. That is what I'm most proud of. By
Yeah,
far.
it's awesome. You got your little tribe, and I think that like your tribe kind of controls your energy and your vibe. And when you've got that support and you bounce off that, like that keeps you motivated, and almost your wolf pack keeps you accountable too, because they're like, when's the next launch? When's this coming out? Like, what are we doing?
Oh.
That must drive you as well. And I guess there was actually a few people on Snapchat that asked me that question. They said, when's the next collection dropping? So that was one of the questions that you can answer now. When is the next collection dropping?
Okay, so I think I alluded to it the other day on Snapchat, but the next collection is our winter launch. It is called Be the Flame, and it is launching on the 29th of this month. So that's a Thursday night, 6 p.m. Perth time, and it's crazy. It's enormous. I'm actually shitting myself, but I'm like really excited. But it's twice the size of anything we've ever done.
So I guess with Jporter, a big one that I want to know as well is that what sort of person do you envision wearing your brand? Like, why did you create it? For what person do you want? Obviously, it started for you, but now, like, for girls, for guys, like, what person do you want to see walking down the street in Jporter?
That's a really interesting question. Like, it's evolved. So when we started the brand, we started training. You know, you're a rookie, like you're a bit of a
hardcore bodybuilding, bro.
Bit of a gym bra. Like, you've started, like you love the gym. It's all about muscle. So when I first started, we were targeting it more. To be honest, when I actually first started the brand, I wanted it to be for people who needed motivation, because I needed motivation, and I wanted, I guess, to wear something that when I looked in the mirror and I was heading out in my walk kit, I felt good, I felt positive, I looked good, and I felt like I could go kill it, you know? So that's where it really started, the original dream. And then, as I said, you know, I fell into that gym scene. We started getting involved in the bodybuilding scene. In fact, the first time I ever saw you, Alice, was on a bodybuilding stage. I actually went to IFBB with a couple of people, and we were actually we went to watch you, because I'd already been following you. And I remember watching you compete, and I was like, she's like this goddess up on stage, like, this is crazy, this world. And so that was the first time I actually saw you in person, was on an IFBB stage. But just like we started falling to that scene. We started doing the thing that most clothing brands do in the beginning, is they sponsor athletes. So we sponsored athletes. We kind of picked people that we felt had good synergies with what we did. And it was awesome. And, you know, we actually had a really good experience with athletes, and some not so good, some good, but overall, that's kind of the direction the brand took. And then I got involved, and I got excited about competing. And then I went down that path, and I competed, and I had a great time. I sort of wanted to just prove I could get down in the trenches, and I knew what it was like there, you know, because so many competitors were wearing the brand. I was like, you know, I've got to prove that I know what it's about.
Relatable,
So, but the danger in all that, and the danger in the bodybuilding industry, is that, well, what should I say, the competitive industry, is that you can be very narrow-minded, because you think it's huge. Because I mean, it is huge, but it's still tiny. It's still tiny compared to the overall fitness industry. And I had to, you know, 12 months ago, I looked at my figures, I looked at my sales, and I thought, I'm not growing. This brand is not growing. I've got these cool sponsored athletes. I'm sponsoring shows around Australia. I was sponsoring three bodybuilding shows around Australia at the time. And I was like, we are not growing anymore. We've reached our limit. And I thought, what? And I had to actually swallow my ego, I suppose, and think, I need to step away from this scene. Like, I need to take a backward step and look at the overall fitness industry and think, why did we even start this brand? And I realized we started this brand to motivate people, but we're trying to sell it to people who are already mega motivated and who are already at the top of their one. They want it for free because they don't want to pay because they're elite.
They've got no money because they're spending it on competing.
They've got money, and three, they're marketing it to their friends who are also just like them. So it became this vicious cycle, and I didn't even know it at the time, but I was actually becoming really unhappy with the brand.
And you also only end up having people who are in shape wearing it, which is not motivating someone that is just starting their fitness journey, and that's who you wanted it for originally. Like, some girl out wanting to wear a Jporter shirt, and she's like, I don't feel worthy of it because I only see shredded people wearing it, you know? And that could be, maybe where it started changing.
That's right. And I know that I gave a pretty long answer, and I haven't fully answered exactly what you asked, but I wanted to sort of explain how important it was that, you know, we started with this vision to motivate people who needed it. We moved into a narrow-minded space where we were only trying to target people who are elite. And now we've stepped back, and our business has grown ×5 in the last 12 months. And we are now selling to the type of people I want wearing Jporter, is someone who has a dream for their life. They don't have to have a dream to be a shredded competitor, shredded bodybuilding athlete. They might have a dream to open this wicked chain of food stores. They might have a dream to have the best dog wash business in Australia. They might have a dream to be a commercial pilot. I don't know, but if they've got this passion and this dream, man, that's who I want in my brand. I want someone who has this feeling in their heart where they want to go out and they want to be everything that they can be. And that's what the brand's about. Like, we're not really even a fitness brand. We're a motivation brand.
Yeah.
It just stems from fitness.
Yeah, and you can see how you've said that a few times today, and it's so clear, like that's your message. You don't want to just be some other fitness brand like Nike, like Adidas, where you don't know anything about where that company came from. I've read the Nike book, so I know a bit about them, but there is, there's no real heart with it anymore. It's just a brand, you just wear it. I'm wearing it. Like, you just wear it because it's comfortable or whatever, but there's no actual real reason for buying that over something else other than the aesthetic look of it. Like, obviously with Jporter, people will buy it. Not only does it look good, but then also there's a message behind it. Also, it's a local business. Also, it's organic, Australia made, like all of these reasons why people are going to want to invest in that. And I think that also a big part of it is you guys keeping true to who you are. And it's good, like, always going back to that message, because sometimes that happens. Companies get bigger and they lose the reason behind, like, why it all began. Yep. We're all guilty of that. We all get lost along the way. Like you said, you got sucked up. I got sucked up into the industry. Like, it happens. Like, you get niched into the bodybuilding scene where all you kind of see is tunnel vision of, like, competing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I did 12 shows in my first 2 years. Like, just stupid. Like, and again, wasted so much money. I think that my business is more successful now from me not competing for the last 3 years. Not the fact that I have more time on my hands. I think that helps, but that I'm more relatable to the average girl than just coaching competitors who, again, don't have money, want everything for free. Not everyone, but as a general sense, young 20-year-old girls come to me asking me to prep them. I'm like, can't afford to work with me, and I can't afford to lessen my services. And a lot of the time they're also very, very needy. So it's like, I'd rather work with some mum with 3 kids who just wants to get a nice body for her Bali holiday. You know what I mean? Sometimes than going down that route. And they're also the ones you want in your clothing, Some mum, you see her over in Bali when you're there traveling and you're like, wow, she's wearing a shirt and she's in the gym on her holiday. Like, that's cool. Like I said to you, seeing someone at the airport the other day, he looked like a tradie and he was wearing some Jporter t-shirt and my phone battery was dead and I was trying to snap you. But that's cool, just your average Joe wearing it. Yeah.
That to me is the best, because I come from a pretty humble background. Like, I come from a farming background. I come from a place where a country background where people are very, I guess, very down to earth, and they're not really into. So like a lot of my relatives and a lot of the people who I grew up with are probably, and I know for a fact, probably look at what I do now and think, who do you think you are? Like,
yeah, I get that too.
Like, it's kind of like, who do you think you're, some sort of high roller? I'm like, no, I still love where I came from and I believe in my roots, but I've got this cool vision and I want to connect with other people. So I just love the down to earth people. And I think that as much as and I'm not saying this to disrespect the bodybuilding industry, because I do have a huge passion in that
Half
scene.
of our friends are in there. Yeah, exactly.
So let's not offend anyone, but there's so much ego. There is so much just self-interest and inwardly focused love.
Yeah.
That I don't want this brand to be inwardly focused, which is why when people say, when are you competing next? I go, I'm not. Like, my brand is my competition. Like, I want to be outwardly focused. And until there was a day when I felt like I could be both, I just wouldn't even consider it anymore. But I just want everyone to be able to wear the brand. I want it to be a brand where someone who's on a weight loss journey can wear it. And that's why we're bringing in, sizes up to 5XL now. And I want someone who's very, very, skinny and who feels like they want to put on some muscle and weight. I want them to be able to wear it. Everyone to know that we're not selling a brand that's just about like tits and ass, because as much as we all love that stuff and it's great and it gets lots of likes and it's easy, it's not why I started the brand. Like, we started the brand to connect with hearts. So we're about souls and hearts, not tits and ass.
And I think that's a big part of it. We spoke the other day about athletes and things. And this is a big important thing that I think will relate to everyone listening to the podcast. Whether you're a competitor or someone that's wanting to get a sponsorship in the industry, I think we should talk about sponsorships, because I think that it's a topic that is very confused, very misconstrued. And I have been sponsored by different companies over the years. I don't have many sponsorships now because I actually make that choice not to. And sometimes that's something that people get confused about. I get a lot of my girls come to me and they say, I get this sponsorship, I'm going to make it. And I'm like, they're not going to hand you cash. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, a sponsorship, unless you've got 1 million followers, like a sponsorship like that doesn't come around. And I think that people need to understand, and it'll be good from a business perspective, but I'm a bit the same with macro snacks. We don't really sponsor people because I want people genuinely eating my product, and I'd rather look after coaches and people like that who are putting it in their clients' plans and all of that, rather than actual people just posting it and people not knowing whether they're just being paid to post that and then not actually wanting to buy it. They're like, do they even eat it? So I think it's a funny one. Like, I don't think that people listening should think that a sponsorship is going to get you anywhere, basically. Like, it might help with exposure. That's how you should look at it. But at the same time, like we said before with egos, a lot of people think that they win a show and that sponsorship should come rolling in and that everyone should be giving them stuff. And it's like, what are you giving to that brand? Like, what are you actually giving? And for me, when I look at a company, I look at what I can give to them. So, for example, I just signed with Body Science, and for me, they've started a podcast. They've started educational platforms. They've started video content. And I was like, well, I love doing that. I can give them that. That's what they're missing. But at the same time, they're going to then allow me to get more exposure. So that's the way I see that relationship. I don't see it from a monetary standpoint. I don't really care as much about getting a lot of supplements. I can buy them myself if I want. But it's that exposure and then also me helping them. So how do you see that? Because I'm sure you've had hundreds of people ask you for sponsorships over the years.
Yeah. Actually, I loved everything you just said. Man, that's so true, Alice. Like when you said, what can somebody do as an athlete or as an individual if they want to get sponsored? What can they do for that company? And how much value can they actually add? Yeah. I think I went through in the early days, I'm a lot wiser now than what I was then. You go through the early days, particularly girls, I will say this, particularly young bikini athlete girls, they will do everything. They'll sort of throw themselves at the brand and at you just to try and get a free shirt. And it just, I don't know, like at the time that just felt so normal. But now when I look back at it, I just, wow, like, it means nothing. So for me, the people we sponsored, and I have no regrets for the people we sponsored because they were all picked based on, one, their support already of the brand. They'd already all been supporting the brand for a long time. 2, I'd been friends with them all for a while. 3, they were awesome people. And when I sponsored people, I never went for this person has 200,000 followers. I went for, how liked are they in real life? Do they actually have respect from the people in their world? Okay, cool. There's someone I can maybe work with. But I think particularly, and this could be a message for maybe people, A, seeking sponsorship or B, trying to start a business and thinking, should I sponsor? It generally doesn't actually get you much. Like as a business, if you're sponsoring somebody, it's in Australia particularly, there's not that big a platform. So it doesn't actually get you that much exposure. Like I get better exposure through, like you said before, like someone like awesome, like mum, she's got like kids, like she's got all these school groups she's in, she's hardcore into her fitness and her kids are into fitness and she's connecting with all these cool people who actually believe what she says as a person because she's a real person. Yeah. That's where I would get 10 times as much result from a person like that than what I would from someone who is an isolated, Instagram time spending person that's just not actually in the real world. Yeah. And
unless you've got like 1 million people and it's just sheer numbers that you're going to make sales off, which will happen. Like, let's say, for example, you have 1 million, they put up a photo of them wearing Jporter leggings and you get, let's say, at least 1,000 sales, which would probably be likely off 1 million followers. Then, that's good coin, but then that comes back to integrity and ethics as well. So it's like...
It's interesting, though, that you say that, because I remember we shot, and I'm not going to mention any names, but we shot a model here who was a very world-renowned competitor, and she was here for a supplement tour, and we somehow snagged the opportunity to shoot with her, and we shot her on a Monday morning out in Perth City, and we took some cool Jporter shots. She posted them, right? I posted them. I did a Snapchat takeover, and she had like 35,000 people watching the Snapchat. We did an Instagram takeover and all this sort of stuff, and I got like 5 new followers on Instagram. Yeah. And I got like 2 new followers on Snapchat. And I thought to myself...
Did you get any sales?
None. Not a single one that was related. And this person would have had 700,000 followers.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. But again, they're more overseas. So it's like, yeah.
It was, right. So, all right. So it wasn't in the local market. So for sure. But really, I thought, are people following them because they want to they're passionate about what they do and they want to buy what they promote, or they're following them because they've just got this awesome body and they're probably like faffing off of it.
They might see a pull or something if they're watching Snapchat. Yeah, they're just hoping.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But you know, you made a good point before. Like in Australia, you're not going to get given cash for sponsorship. If you're an IFBB pro in Australia, you're still a coach. You're still working a full time.
Yeah.
Like the people put all that. I've heard it before as well. People go, "Oh man, if I get sponsorship, you know, I'll have made it. I'll have made it in a sense." Like, well, and because of that desperation and that kind of that feeling of like they need to get a sponsorship. Next minute, they're sponsored by some little like health shop in a supermarket who's and you know make a deal out of it. And you're like, man, like, did you really? All right, I'm not saying sponsorships are wrong. I think they can be really good, but I think people jump to them too easily. They take whatever they can get and they burn themselves out and they end up just looking like a sponsorship whore.
Or they don't offer the company anything and then the company drops them after a year or 6 months. Yeah. Like that's the other one. They expect you to just be able to sit back and post them standing there like with a product and be okay, and it looks so fake and so unauthentic.
The world's changed. Like Instagram has changed. Social media in the last 3 years. 3 years ago, you could post a discount code saying, "Oh my God, I'm sponsored by this company," and people would believe it and they'd go, "That's cool. I'm going to get on board with it." These days, we're all pretty wise. Everybody knows how to use the platform. Everybody knows what it's about. We all know that if somebody's posting that, they've just been given it, or it's rare that they like actually genuinely believe in it. That's why when I see somebody authentically wearing a brand and they're not making a big deal out of it, but it's just part of maybe their life or their lifestyle, and you notice that's cool. They're wearing that cool brand or they're using that cool product, but they're not making a big fuss. I think, all right, that must be a good product.
And I think that's where Snapchat snuck into the market, where it was like a more authentic way of seeing people's day-to-day life. And if they were just walking down the street doing a snap and they're wearing a Jporter shirt, that would look more authentic to someone because they're like, wow, they're actually wearing it in their day. Or girls on Snap eating macro snacks or, you know, doing those things. I would say I get better sales through like, some of my athletes doing it just on their Snapchat. I said, don't even worry about Instagram. I'm happy for you to just eat it on your Snapchat. Like put meal one, like if you're eating it, snap it up, like, you know, and that shows the customer that's much more authentic as well. So I think that's an important point for anyone listening. Like if you're getting into the fitness industry now, which is a hard market to get into, it is so saturated, like disgustingly saturated, especially for like fitness models and online coaches and all of that. It is a very, very saturated industry. And even clothing, like clothing is now becoming a saturated market. And there's only a few clothing companies who I've really seen be able to make it out the other side. I've seen a lot of them fall, especially in Australia. But you guys are really one of the only Australian brands, in my opinion, who's still stepping up the game, putting out new products, doing new launches. You're continuously evolving, and that's why you're doing so well. And I also believe, like we spoke the other day about Gymshark, and they're the same. They're constantly evolving. They're not kind of resting on like, and even though their growth's been exponential and crazy, they've got a bigger market in the UK and US. It's different to Australia. But that, like we were speaking before, like that must motivate you as well. Like seeing a young guy like that, and he's just done like epic things. Obviously, there's two owners, but the main one,
Oh, big time. The Gymshark story is amazing. I follow it from the beginning, and as much as I make an effort not to really follow what other clothing brands are doing, because I don't want to subconsciously be, you know, polluted or take anyone's idea. I love what Ben's doing, and I think that the Gymshark story is just amazing. And they've obviously theirs is very, very much based around, you know, big YouTubers and big athletes. It's a good tactic that they've used, and I can't even fault what they're doing. Like they're awesome.
Yeah,
that's very motivating. And like what we don't do in Australia, like I suppose when I look at all the thousands of brands in Australia, I always look at about a top 20 brands, and I know that we're amongst them. And we don't base our growth on people, like just on athletes. So like, you know, a lot of these brands pick up like an amazing athlete, like a Lauren Simpson or a Shanna Baker, and all of a sudden they start getting lots of followers and they start feeling like they're making it. We're building ours on organic people, on the real customers that are buying our brand. That's where we're building it on. We're building it on people's hearts and souls, and we're sort of just building it very organically. And we're never going to resell. So we don't resell or restock through anybody's shops. Because that's just not our vision. I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do, but for us, we'll never do it. So our growth is always going to be slower, but I know that we're growing, and I know that we're every single stone we put in the castle wall is getting mortared in properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. And I think, like you said, when you grow that way, the growth is slower often than going about it the other way, but it's also steady growth, and you can kind of see a more linear like evolution. Whereas when you're almost taking a risk on an athlete and throwing all this money at it and like, let's hope this explodes. What if that person disappears off the scene after like, you know, a couple of months, or they get sick and, you know, something bad happens in their life? You've got all this pressure on this athlete to pull through, and you've just invested all this time and money. It does put a lot of pressure on you. But if you're investing in those organic followers from the bottom up, they're just going to keep telling a couple of friends, and they're going to tell a couple of friends. They're going to see them wearing it at coffee club, and it's just going to eventually grow and grow and grow. Because I honestly think, in my opinion, that, and you might be different, but some of these girls that do have millions of followings, if they are just not offering anything to society, people are just going to stop following them. And I really hope that's what happens. I know that sounds bad, but
it sounds good.
I wish so many girls, like I do social media detox with my female clients, and I make them unfollow any account that doesn't add value to your life. And they have to go through and they have to unfollow. If this person doesn't make you feel good, that it motivate you, and if it's not just for their body, like unfollow, you know? And I hope that's the way the industry is moving. Like,
I think it is. I think it is the way the industry is moving. I think the fact that Instagram and platforms such as that are cracking down on all the bots and the kind of fake stuff that's been happening. But yeah, it pisses me off too when I see somebody who just uses their body as a selling tool, and it's just about their body, and it's just kind of like the things they post with it, just this arrogant sort of self-love. You know, like it's like when girls post a photo of like their ass and they put a quote next to it saying, "She was a warrior," for she was, you know, and it's like, that just makes no sense. Yeah. She was like, and even like, I have no problem with a good booty shot, don't get me wrong, but like, keep it in fucking context. Keep it in context. This is a photo of my booty. Look how good it is. That's great.
My ass, yeah.
But so I think I agree with you. I really hope that people gradually become more educated on social media and start looking for real value rather than just porn.
100%. And I think I did a video about this on Facebook Live the other day. About the industry, and I said how Instagram butt models, or belfie models as I call them, they're the smart ones. I have no hate for them. I'm like, you guys are the intelligent ones that have people buy your shit and they're not smart enough to go, this is probably Photoshop, this is a good angle. They know their angles, they know their filters. They might be living on no food, like just to get that, because they know for 5 or 10 years if they can sustain this body, they've set themselves up for life. Like, there's money in the bank. Like,
exactly.
They're the smart ones. What's going to happen when they hit 30, 40 and have kids? Like, half of their creepy Indian followers are going to drop off. I say that in the most unracist way, but it's absolutely true. Like, that's what's going to happen. So that's the way I say it. I'm like, they're intelligent. It's us that need to get more educated, or the people that, not so much us, so to speak, because we're in the industry, we see it, but the uneducated people coming in, also thinking that they can look like that from taking that detox tea or that protein powder, all of that. We need to educate people more on the ground level of like going in. And that's why clothing's really cool, because clothing, you're not selling a promise. You're not selling, you're going to look the same as me in this outfit, but you're, like you said before, selling motivation, which is what you want.
Yeah. It's low risk. Clothing is a very low risk thing to sell in the sense that you're not worrying about the health and safety standards. You're not worrying about, like potentially causing harm to somebody's body. I mean, unless they trip over putting their pants on. I don't know. You're not, it's very low risk, but it is also very, very, very competitive, and it's very easy to do. So anyone can start a clothing brand. Anyone can get the first wave of orders with their friends and family. It's how do you take it outside of that?
Yeah,
but,
I was going to say, you make it sound very easy for everyone right now, but I know it's not.
Oh yeah, bring it on. Like, anyone can start a brand, but like it's, how can you continue to grow? But everything you said is so true, and I really do hope that people who are out there, who maybe listen to this podcast and think, maybe I need to challenge myself. Do I actually add value to the world around me? Because that's really what it's about. And if you're just out there trying to get, cheap likes and cheap interaction, like really, what are you doing for the world?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's that fine line of, it's okay to be proud of your body and what you've achieved. And I think that we've all done it. Me and you combined, we've both posted, on semi-nude pictures on the internet of like our physiques and our progress. And that's okay, and own it. But also don't let that be everything that's you. Like the way I see it is, and you're probably the same when you're getting sucked into the industry a little bit, is that I didn't want to be known for just my body. And you're probably the same. like you have so much more to give than that. And what if you do put on some weight? What if all this stuff does happen? Are people still going to be interested in your message or even your brand? I think it rubs off on both of our businesses. So yeah.
Very much. Yeah. But you know, it's interesting you say that because last year particularly, like I competed at the end of 2015, and then for the whole of 2016, it wasn't until probably early 2017 I realized, like this year, I realized I've just spent a whole year so unhappy with my body and so unfocused on the other things that are important because I was so stressing about the way I looked after comp. You know, I don't look as good as blah, blah, blah. And it's only this year that I really started to think, no, like I'm happy again. I'm happy training again. My nutrition's really awesome at the moment. I've made some little changes which are helping. But I think at a point in time, I did kind of base a lot of my self-value on the way I looked. Yeah. Which is just so crazy. It's so crazy. But
not even your brand. Your brand is, you.
Yeah, but I'm glad that I'm out of that little funk now. So yeah.
But we all go through it, and I think that even more so as a coach, you put that pressure on yourself because our body is our work at the end of the day, and people are going to go, well, you're a coach, why don't you look shredded 24/7? You know. So there is pressure, and even you just being in the industry, you need to look good in your clothes at the end of the day. You can't be, you know, a slob and a mess and be wearing Jporter for your brand. You know, it wouldn't look as good. Like, let's be honest, it's not going to happen. But at the same time, you know, I always have to think about the other aspect of it. What if I, you know, and me and Sean said, what if I decide to have a child? I'm not going to be able to maintain the same physique, but that's okay. I've got to let my brand grow and evolve with that. So then I'll be more relatable to pregnant women or whatever, you know, it'd be the same for you. So there's always someone that you're going to relate to. And I think that's something that's important to remember. So I'm going to ask you, go on to my next question. This is an interesting one. Where do you see, it's a pretty big one, so you can kind of take it however you want it, but where do you see the fitness industry, I guess your brand going over the next couple of years? Like, where's the evolution going? Have you got any big plans for like anything new and exciting in terms of like how you guys are going to sell or where you're going to market to, or where's it all going? Are you going to do any more expos, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think like the last part you just said, expos will be part of the journey as we move forward. The reason we haven't, I've been working so hard to cement us more as a fitness lifestyle brand and more for the general person. So that's why we've sort of stayed away from expos for a while. I didn't want to spend the money on something that's very targeted towards, you know, you kind of put yourself on a platform against, you know, the other big sort of gym brands, and you just get seen as one of them straight away. And I thought, no, I'm going to step away from that scene for a while. When we come back with a bit more of a name, people will have more of an understanding of what we're about. But where I see the brand going is like, I suppose I want Jporter Clothing to be a global brand. Like I want us to be a small brand, but with a global impact. Like I want us to have that still to have that boutique, limited, authentic. You know, people feel privileged to be wearing it. They feel lucky that they've got one of the pieces from a collection. You know, I want that feeling still. I just want it on a wider scale. So I'd like to get it to the point where I can travel around the world and meet the wolf pack and meet the people wearing it and kind of, you know, hear people's stories and become motivated by that and in turn motivate other people. So I see the brand as something that's, you know, oh man, there's this fucking sick brand. They're from Perth. They're so authentic when they do a collection. There's limited drops, you know, like you can only get it then. Tell your mates, like, and I want that, and I want it to go to people who have that passion, you know, people who are connecting to the brand, who feel passionate about their life and who feel passionate about their dreams. I want that, and I don't want it just to be limited to Australia. Like right now, we sell Perth, Victoria, Queensland are our big markets, and I'd like to see that, I guess, more clothing go around Australia, but I'd just like to see it start going around the world.
So where did you say was kind of the next to Perth? Where's your next biggest state?
The next biggest state is Victoria, and the third biggest state is Queensland.
Okay, cool. So we're the Sydney market in that sort of industry a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely sell into Sydney, but nowhere near as much as we should for the population. So I need to start, like for this year, you will see, like, I do a lot of pop-up shops in WA. I go around to a lot of gyms. For the rest of the year, I want to be starting to travel around Australia. So I want to do a pop-up tour or a pop-up tour in New South Wales and a pop-up tour in Queensland, and also one up far north WA.
Yeah, cool.
Because I think that'll be a really good thing too, to actually go out. Like there's a lot of people who wear the brand. If I'm like coming over and staying with them and getting into their gyms, you know, they'll get a lot of their mates in to meet me and we can, you know, just show them how much we love it. There's nothing like face-to-face communication to make people go, all right, I believe in this too.
This person's genuine. Yeah, 100%. That'd be really cool. Do some little tours and things. But Yeah, that'd be awesome. Because it is, WA is awesome, but it is very limited and getting to the East Coast. Like I've just spent the last 2 weeks in Sydney and Melbourne, and you're just so far away from everything, and everything just moves at a faster pace over there compared to what we have here, which is a good and a bad thing. It's good because people here tend to be quite loyal, tend to be very like that, whereas I feel like Sydney's different, and you've lived in Sydney, so I'm sure you're different. And not dissing anyone who lives in Sydney, I've got good friends in Sydney, but it's just a different, I don't know, there's something different about it. Do you feel that, like with the industry?
Oh, God, I was so happy to come back to Perth from Sydney because when I got back, I just realized how, like you said, how loyal people here are. People are so loyal here. And I think it's this sense of like, we all band together because we're in this isolated city. We band together and we stand behind our own. Whereas in Sydney, it's you basically, you live on the East Coast. You don't live in Sydney, you live on the East Coast. And it's just every man and his dog for himself. So I think, and they're just, the populations are so huge and there's so much stuff happening there. I think that, when I lived there, I didn't feel that it had the same vibe as Perth has, that's for sure.
No, I remember I was going to move there and you were like, don't do it.
Yeah. It's followed you up.
You're like, you won't like it. And I'm so happy I didn't move there. That was when I met Sean. That's very interesting. Now, the big one I want to talk about now, which would be good for everyone listening to the podcast, is competing. We are going to talk about a little bit more about your competing, how you dealt with competing and working full-time, running your own business. I can't remember I think you were full on Jporter when you were competing. I don't think you were doing any of the other businessy stuff that you were running.
No, I'm Jporter, yep.
Was your last comp Karratha, or was it the Perth one after that?
Yeah, so I competed in Karratha at the Northwest Titles, and I came down to Perth 2 weeks later.
Sean wanted to make sure to mention that you and him are Mr. Northwest. Mention that on the podcast. So Sean actually was probably like you guys hadn't spent a massive amount of time together, but yeah, they both competed. So Sean won bodybuilding at Karratha and Josh won physique. So they were both Mr. Northwest. Very, very exciting. Right. But yeah, I guess like, how did you manage that? Because I know for me, a big part of why I haven't competed for 3 years is because of my business has been my baby and I put it first, whereas before it was competing and then business. And I'm 100% happy I made that choice for the last 3 years. And now I'm in a good space where I feel like I can do both quite well because everything's more organized and there's more structure. So how did you find doing that? Because you're obviously having launches plus competing, plus probably getting a little bit too pulled into the bodybuilding scene. How did you go with all that? And obviously you said post-comp it was hard as well.
Okay, so I'm going to be brutally honest. I'm not going to try and water it down. You want to sound like the person who's got their shit together and they're this hardcore like business person, but I'm going to be really honest. I did not handle it well. Like, I handled my comp prep well. I was obsessed. I'm such an obsessive personality.
You prepped yourself as well, which is even harder. Like you were, and you're
I
like,
prepped myself.
Okay. Yeah. Checking in with everyone, and
So I prepped myself, and I spent, probably 14 weeks just obsessing over this comp prep, and I dialed in well. Like, I mean, I didn't build the muscle I should have. I should have spent another year. I came in really nice and lean. I was very happy with the body I brought, but the cost to my business, like, I remember when I came out of the comp, I thought, fuck, I did that so well. I managed to keep it all together. And I came out of the comp and I thought, all right, I better start looking at business. There were emails I hadn't responded to for 4 weeks. There were orders that hadn't gone out for 2.5 weeks. There were, like, it was a train wreck. Like, I'm surprised that I still have a brand. I came out of comp thinking I'd nailed these comps, but the cost to my business was just huge. And now, like, I know now the reason why when people say, are you going to compete soon? My business is 10 times the size it was then. I couldn't possibly take the risk of that happening again. So, like, I guess mentally I was very focused because I'm a very focused person. So I came into the comp with giving it everything I could give it. And at the same time, I let my business slide. So the whole of last year was me, I guess, regaining the trust from my customers, regaining the kind of name that we had with the business and the vision that we had. And I just really had to take a backward step and sort of take my eyes away from the bodybuilding scene so that I could focus.
What was your number one reason for competing?
All right.
I touched on it before, but yeah, what was the big one?
Do you know what? It's very funny. Like, I did have a plan. I remember looking at it thinking, all right, so many competitors are wearing the brand. I've got sponsored athletes. I've got like this kind of vibe around the brand of all this the competitive bodybuilding. And I thought, I need to get down in the trenches and prove to people that I know what it's about. Like, I think it'll be good for the brand. And you know what? I did get a lot of interaction people because of the competing. So I'm not saying that I'm not glad I did it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that the risk to people when they're trying to run a big business, or they're trying to hunt their dreams and compete at the same time, it's hard.
Yeah, and I think as well, your first comp is the hardest. Like, I also think that I'm a better position now knowing that I've done 15 shows before of how to approach it. And I know that I always need to have someone else coach me, because when I've coached myself and competed, I've shot myself in the foot. So I would say next time you get someone else to take the pressure off, because when you coach,
I would recommend that. Yeah,
it's on you. It's like you're overthinking everything 100 times when you coach yourself. And I'm the same as you. When I prep myself, I got too skinny, dropped muscle because I over dieted myself, because I was always like, I'm too fat. You're probably the same. Like, I've still got a bit of fat to drop. I can feel it. Like, this little ridiculous amount of body fat. But it was interesting when you said the why to competing. And I always talk about why to compete. I hope you don't take offense to this, but your main reason for competing, obviously you wanted to achieve something for you, but a lot of it was about your company. Like, a lot of it was like, and I always say to people, unless you're competing because you want to get your physique on stage to like show what you've done for you, truly for you, you're going to have a negative response after comp. Because if you don't get the result of what you thought it was going to be, so for you it might have been, okay, I thought that would have grown the brand and evolved the brand, and it went the opposite, where you said you had to catch up and all of this, and you're like, fuck, then that's not going to be a good time post-comp. Whereas if you go in with it being like, I'm just going to compete and I'm going to commit to this, and you know what, I need to be happy with what I put on stage, and if nothing comes from it, whatever. If it does, that's a bonus. And it's interesting that you said that, because I've got a few girls like that too, who they go in and they have a good heart. They still want to compete. They're still passionate about sport. Nothing against that. And I know you also wanted to test your physique and see what you were capable of. But a lot of them will go in it with thinking, this will get me a sponsorship, or this will get me this if I do it. And then when they don't get that, they're like a fucking mess, So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, 100%. I remember thinking this will be so good for the brand. So I put all this pressure on myself, thinking I've got to win. I've got to do so well, because this will be so good for the brand. And if I don't win, it'll look bad for the brand. And that was just
you doing that.
It was so unfair on myself to even put that pressure on myself. It was unfair on probably the people around me, but
Renee.
and some friends and family who later on told me, you were very hard to talk to during comp prep. All you wanted to talk about was that, and I was like, fuck, man, I became that.
You're like, I was that person.
But like you said, first show,
exactly. Everyone was like that their first show. I was the same. My dad afterwards was like, please don't compete ever again. You were horrible. Well, I was living with my dad, and I remember he'd cook me like a healthy meal, and I'd be like, Dad, it's not on my meal plan. I hate you.
Whole grain pasta. It's whole grain pasta.
He would make me like grilled steak, and I'd be like, I have to have white fish for dinner. Like, just ridiculous stuff before doing macros, obviously. But it's so good that you're humble enough to see that, because obviously a lot of that would have been a bit of ego. We all have ego because we're motivated, passionate people. You have to have a little bit of ego in business, to be an entrepreneur. I think you need that little bit, and it's that confidence ego balance, But and I believe that you have that good balance now, where you're confident, but you can see where you've made your mistakes and you're happy to own them. Like, and then that's where ego gets left behind, when you're okay with making mistakes. So it's pretty cool though, and it's funny how people are now asking you, when are you going to compete again? You're like, ugh. But you know what? It might be cool though to like do one down the line and learn from everything. Like, when you're in a position where you're like, I want to do one, and try to do a prep where, and this is why I'm kind of doing this year as well, like my why behind competing is that I want to be able to do it without it affecting everything in my life, while still maintaining relationships, while doing a really healthy prep, proving to people it can be done, but also proving it to myself that it can be done, because obviously I'm a coach. So that's really my why, and mainly just improving my package from what I bought 3 years ago. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, it'll be interesting to see it go down again. But
it may be. Maybe we'll see.
And it might not even need to be the stage. I always think sometimes to people, if you don't want to compete, I don't know if you're the same, and you don't want to commit to a comp prep because it is very full on, it's very expensive, it takes a lot from your life. You can just do like a nice photo shoot and get like a lean physique, and not have to be stage lean, but look fucking awesome, and do like a shoot with Renee or Brett or whoever it is, and have that as like a reward.
I think that would be my goal. Right now, cutting very slowly. I'll say that, like, I'm not rushing out. I don't want to drop any of the small amount of muscle I do have. So I'm just keeping my calories up, and I'm just slowly adjusting my nutrition, adjusting my training, adding a little bit more intensity into what I'm doing at the moment and I can feel that the body fat, I can see it slowly dropping away. And I think as we come towards like the summer end of the year, like summer fashion with the brand, I'd like to do some more shoots and just look in really good shape.
Yes.
So for me, I want to look good for the brand. I want to look good for me too. I want to feel good, but I want to be that person who runs a brand who people think, and he stays in good shape, like that's motivating because he's running this hardcore business. He's growing.
Time for the gym.
Yeah, he still makes time for himself and his body because, you see someone who makes time for their body and you just respect it. You think, wow, they actually care. They've got some self-respect.
100%. And I think that that's more motivating to people, like not having to be peeled in 5-10%, but be looking good. And I definitely know that I let myself go a bit when I stopped competing for a bit, and I focused so hard on work that I was missing my own training sessions. I wasn't enjoying being in the gym because I was so burnt out with working so much. And I wasn't proud of that because I felt like I wasn't being authentic to my clients when I was expecting them to work and train and do everything, all the time. So I had to pull back a bit and make sure I made that time for me again over probably the last 6 months, and it's made a massive difference. So yeah, it's interesting that you say that, but 100%, like I take my hat off. Some of my clients work like very high up jobs and compete. And I'm just like, you guys are like, you're the real MVPs. Like my clients who are the ones, like, for example, like Amy M, Amy, she wears all your gear.
Said that.
Yeah, she's insane. Like I went for a walk with her this morning with the dogs, and like she's very high up in her job. She's in commercial real estate. She flies all around the country a lot, sets up shopping centers basically. And she's one of the only females up that high as well. And she never complains. And she actually prefers comp prep to normal life because she has structure. She said she has very clear structure and she likes that structure. But she also said she'd never want to coach herself because she wants to have me just be like, do this, that's what you do. And then she can go to work and just focus on work. And then,
100%.
Yeah, so it's interesting. But we're all competing.
The points you made before about how you put all that, I guess, that pressure on yourself to grow your business, and you felt like your body was, maybe your body image was slipping a bit for where it should be. Obviously, I don't have as much of the pressure as you because I'm not a coach. But when I said post-comp was really hard for me, last year I threw myself at my business. I came out of comp and I barely ate for 2 months. Like I just threw myself at my business so much that I was like, I would work 16, 17 hour days. I would drink 6 cups of coffee. I would eat once or twice. Like I'm not kidding you. I was eating less than one of those horror story bikini athletes where you're like 800 calories. I added up my calories one day and I'm like, you're eating 2 meals.
Yeah, I remember seeing you and you looked like Sean said it. I think he said, Josh looks like he's lost all his gains, like since comp. And I was like, I don't think he's got time to train. And then I looked at you and you just looked tired because of like all the coffee and adrenals and
and it was like this constant, like I was working so hard and getting results for the business, but I had this constant kind of niggling unhappiness in the back of my head where I wasn't releasing the tension by going and training, and 2, I just didn't feel happy with, not so much with the way I looked. I mean, that was part of it, but just with the fact that I'd worked so hard for it and I just lost it.
Yeah.
So this made huge changes this year to sort of flip back around.
It's interesting you say that though, because it's like most people get fat post-comp and you went off the other way and you just like focus hard on not worrying about food and not being this and this. Because you throw yourself into something else. And I think it's a really good thing for people post-comp to throw themselves into something else that's not having them think about food all the time, just the extremes of it. All right, we better squeeze in one more question because we've been going for like an hour and I know I could talk to you all day. We might have to do a couple of podcasts. Okay, so one big one is I want you to give me your top 3 tips for anyone wanting to start their own business.
Okay, that's interesting. I've never really thought about that, but my top 3 tips. 1 would be, don't just pick something because you want to start a business. Make sure it's the right thing.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of people start businesses and they just start it for the sake of it. They so badly want to be self-employed that they go, I'm just going to do this thing. And they throw themselves into it. Everybody around them can see that it's not the right choice. It's not going to work for them. It's not really what they want to do. But they do it anyway because they so badly want to be self-employed.
Yeah.
Hang on. While we're talking, I'm just walking to the back door because somebody's knocking. Tip 2 would be have a why,
Yeah.
have a vision, have an actual reason why that you're doing it. If you don't have a why, then you're probably going to get thrown. Sorry, Josh. No, it's okay. I'm just on that. I'm going to conference call. Sorry, Benny. See ya. Thanks. Just giving a towel by going. Yeah, so have a why, because if you have a why, that's going to direct your whole journey, and it's going to keep you focused. It's going to keep you honest about what you do. Tip 3 would be just never fucking quit. You know, if you're committed to it, just do not quit. Work the hours, put in the effort, put in all that grind that, you know, that you think that you can't do, put it in. Even when it feels like it's not paying off, put it in, don't quit, and it'll pay off.
Awesome. Really good tips.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. All right, one last one. Now, when you have, where is it? I've written it down. I did get one on Snapchat saying how big is your penis, but we won't be answering that one today.
8 inches.
Just hanging. So the last one is mentally, I guess we talked about it a little bit more, but I want to just briefly touch on you and Renee, because we haven't really talked about Renee, because she gets enough publicity as it is, and she's a big, fabulous, successful dream hunter owner. But how have you guys found more, I guess, and I asked her this when I had her on the podcast, so if anyone doesn't follow Renee, go and watch that episode. But how did you guys handle it with you've been married for a while now, you've been, you know, high school sweethearts, you've gone through the whole thing. How have you found it now, both working together so closely, so intensely? Is there ups and downs? You guys always seem pretty good to me, but how have you guys found working together, having a relationship, all of that?
What did she say?
Not telling. You tell me. Should have listened to that podcast.
It's a good question. I mean, a lot of people talk about it. You know, and people have said to us, you know, power couple, dream couple, like goals. You know, that's what I want. And I've actually had to say to a few people, you know, like it's not always what it seems. Like don't wish for something. Like we work together, we live together, we spend a lot of our time together. In fact, it comes with some huge challenges. And I think people on this podcast will appreciate honesty of me saying it is really difficult when you live and work with somebody and you're both self-employed, and there's the financial pressure as well as the business pressure. But something that we've learned, probably especially recently, is that you still need to be your own person. You know, when you're in that situation, you still need to have your own space. So, like, for example, I went to Bunbury for 5 or 6 days by myself just to do some soul searching and some business stuff. And I think that for us, as long as we're connecting that kind of that business stuff to our personal lives and trying, you know, because it's very easy for it to all become the one thing.
Yeah.
So if we just set some things in place and give each other that space as well, so that we can go do our own things and still be our own person. That's really the strategy we've had to put in place to make it work. Because it's hard. Yeah. It's bloody hard. Like I love everything she does. Like she's a bloody smart person. Renee is going to be a very accomplished businesswoman in Australia. Like she the direction she's heading in and what she's doing is one. She's so smart. Like and she always was. Like even in high school, she was always brilliant at everything she did. But she kind of, I guess it's only in the last year that I've seen her really start to be confident, and she's kind of like, she's not looking to me or necessarily to other people for that kind of validation. She's just going, no, this is what I believe in and this is what I do. So I'm really interested to see what she can do, you know, moving forward.
Because you guys are kind of the opposite, and you're very, very similar. And I think this is why me and you get along so well, and Renee and Sean get along quite well, obviously my partner, because I would say that those two are like the brains and we're more like the brawn. Like they're like Sean is way smarter than me. I'm happy to say that. He's so intelligent, but he's not confident in sometimes what he does, and he's a perfectionist, which can kind of ruin him. Whereas me and you are a bit more like, we're not perfectionists, but we want a good quality, but we're also not scared to do the work and just give it a try. And if we fail, whatever, fuck it. Whereas I know that Sean and Renee are a bit more like, has to go well, like it has to be good. And like, then sometimes they'll be their own worst critic, which stops them progressing forward. And now Renee's really grown, and I've seen her be, like you said, the last 6 to 12 months, she's just now stopped giving a fuck as much about all those little things. And now she's progressed forward, which I'm hoping the same is starting to happen for Sean. So But it's interesting because I think those two personalities go well together in a relationship. Like if me and you were in a relationship, we'd probably fuck a lot of shit up and we'd probably be like...
We'd be constantly trying to outdo each other. We'd be like, fuck you, I'm the biggest show off.
Yeah, exactly. But Sean, I say he's a bit of, sometimes he can be negative, but I don't think he's negative. He calls himself I call him a pessimist. And he's like, I'm not a pessimist, I'm a realist. Whereas you're unrealistic and you have these huge goals and you're like, whereas he'll kind of bring me back down to earth and be like, it's a great goal, honey, but probably won't happen by Monday. How about next week?
Yeah, no, you do need it. Yeah,
you need a little bit of that. You need someone that's going to support your goals, but also make sure that you're not setting yourself up for complete failure at the same time and that they're on the same page as you.
I think a really good point. And it comes off what you're saying. And you asked me this question about how we do it. I think the main thing I could say to anybody who wants to do business or wants to do something like that with their partner is don't put all your happiness on somebody else. Even if you're married to them, even if you're in a relationship with them, you as an individual need to be your own business person. You need to be the person or your own, you need to be the star in your own show. Like as much as you want them to love you and support you and you want to do the same for them, you need to be your own person.
Yeah.
You know, you shouldn't depend on each other for your happiness. You know, you want happiness with each other and it's so great that you have it, but you don't depend on it because if you depend on it, it makes everything, you're just putting all this pressure. Like you need to, and I've seen a few other, I've seen a few amazing like business couples who each have their own thing going on. They're together, but they don't depend on that person to kind of validate them. They know that they're a good person. They know that they can work hard. They know that they're valuable to the world. And it just so happens that they're with somebody else who's also the same. So don't depend on someone else for your happiness.
We're giving relationship advice 101 now, but it's 100% true. Like you can't I think it happens more with women than men, 100%. I'm not saying that in a sexist way, but so many women let go of, I actually wrote about this yesterday, let go of their power in life a lot to a relationship. And they'll, especially when they have kids, like it happens with mums all the time, they like have children and they're all about their kids and their husband and they're not about themselves. And they're the women that I now help a lot more of because they're so lost. And they've like let go of their bodies, let go of their nutrition because they're worrying so hard about everyone else. So like you said, it's really awesome. And I think it was such a great idea that Renee started Dream Hunter because now she's got Dream Hunter. You've got Jporter. They still come together. She still does like a lot of the design stuff. I know she does a lot of the back end stuff. And I'm sure you help her with her. And I know you help with some of her Dream Hunter clients with their business, entrepreneurs, all of that. But both your own owners of those companies and those brands, and then you can go together and help each other. So you've got the best of both worlds. And I think that's awesome. And the way that I look at relationships is a relationship should be a complement to your life, but something you don't need. It's almost like, you know, having a nice expensive handbag, like it's nice, but you don't need it. Like at the end of the day, if horribly speaking here, but if you were to break up, you'd both be happy, but you complement each other's lives at the moment and help. Now, if that was to turn toxic, you'd know, okay, well, we need to end this because it's not helping us.
Quite a good point. It's so important to have your own thing and to be your own person. And you made that point with mums before. Well, I've got a friend who's a mum and she's got a couple of kids and she made this point to me once. She goes, I still train hard and I still look after myself and I make that time because my kids have got to know that their mummy loves herself too and that they need to grow up knowing that they can love themselves as well and have self-love. Because if they just see their mummy as just this robot who only lives to please them, she goes, they're not going to see me as a real, she goes, I want them to believe in themselves and they need to know that I believe in myself too. And I was like, wow, that's pretty true, man. Like,
yeah, that's absolutely epic. And I love mums who are like that. And I try to empower my mums to be more like that I work with. And I'm sure I'll get some hate because they're like, well, you're not a mum yet. Like, you don't understand, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, people I believe that people box themselves up into the stories they create in their head. So they say things that happens all the time, like, I'm fat or I'm a mum, I'm this, I'm that. And the more you say you're that thing, I believe the more you become that. Whereas if you say, I'm a mum, yes, but I'm also a amazing, strong, confident woman who, you know, wants this and this in my life, then why can't you have everything? I think people limit themselves to like this box of thinking that that's all they can be rather than like, why can't I have it all? Like, that's how I say it. I'm like, I'm sure it'll be harder once to get there, but it's not going to be easy, but why not have more than less in life? Like,
you got to be your own person. You got to be your own person.
100%. All right. Well, I'm sure we're both working on Sunday. We've got work to get done today. So I will wrap it up there. But if anyone has any questions or they want to have Josh on again, then please comment on the podcast because it's been awesome. But I'm sure there's so many other things we can talk about. We'll think of some new topics. So thank you so much. Have you got any final words of wisdom for the listeners out there?
No, I'm just going to say fortune favors the bold. We've said that from the beginning, and it is the truest thing that I know. So fortune favors the bold, guys. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope that it's been valuable, and thanks, Alice, for having me on.
No worries. And where can they stalk you, follow you if they already don't?
On Snapchat, they can follow me on Jporter Clothing. That's one word, and they'll be in for a treat. On Instagram, Jporter Clothing, and Portagram, which is my personal one, and on Facebook, Jporter Clothing. So, or you can stalk me in real life. I'm in Midland.
Don't say that. Everyone will start rocking up at your door. What's the website if they want to buy apparel?
Jporter.com.au.
Easy. So new launch, guys, set it in your diaries is, you said June 29th?
29th, 6 p.m. first time.
6 p.m. Western Standard Time, which is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I can get used to that now that I've got a lot more clients over the East Coast. So get used to those time differences, guys. Thank you so much for being on board today, and we'll definitely love to do another podcast with you in the future.
Thank you. It's been awesome. Seriously, enjoyed.
Awesome. Thank you so much, mate. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Break Through the Bullshit. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would love it if you could leave a review on iTunes. Let me know, comment what you'd love to see more of, and be sure you've also subscribed on YouTube and iTunes for updates. And if you'd like more info, then you can also add the Team Round Support Facebook page, which is available to access for all of you, and you just simply need to search for it on Facebook.